So welcome to Partner Up Partnerships Podcast. All right, we're live.
And I was like, I have all these questions to ask.
The thing that matters in a partnership is the trust and sacrifice.
Composing, building software that works for you.
Welcome everyone to Partner Up. And today I am super excited because this guy right here, Pete Caputa, shout out Pete, say hi, say what's up.
Hi.
Pete has beaten me up for the past 4 or 5 years. Told me all the stuff I've done wrong.
Yeah.
So Pete,
I get to like a work little brother there is.
Yeah. So Pete, built from the ground up, like as a sales rep to running $100 million channel program at HubSpot, and now is the CEO of DataBox. And we're super excited to have Pete today and to dive into this topic. Y'all are gonna love it. It's gonna be a ton of fun. Before we hop in, quick reminder that this episode is sponsored by Crossbeam. Crossbeam is a partner ecosystem platform that acts as a data escrow service that finds overlapping customers and prospects with your partners while keeping the rest of your data private and secure. So sign up for free at crossbeam.com. So Pete,
I also have a really slick website where you can plug in any SaaS company, and then it shows the partners that other SaaS companies that have common partners. Have you played with that site?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I've only used it to find SaaS for like other SaaS companies. But I didn't know you could use it for the research.
Yeah, I think they have like a database of different types of companies. I don't think they delineate between like an agency partner and a SaaS integration partner, but
yep. Do you use it at DataBox?
Both are in the database. What's that?
Do you use it at DataBox?
No, I haven't used it. I just play with it. It's fun to play with. It's like one of those word cloud kind of what are they called? Virtual brain things.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to get a lot of love for this one. You got Pete talking about them, and they'll suck you in eventually, Pete, to where you're using them at DataBox.
I keep hearing about them.
They're producing actually good content, so happy to have them as partners to the show. So Pete, I want to go back with you. You used to, most people don't know this, but you used to carry a bag, and you started selling to some.
I have always carried a bag.
Just the bag got bigger, and more people started carrying bags with you.
Yeah, exactly.
But going back to not like the transition from like, hey, I'm selling to these agencies, I think I could sell with them. What I wanted to talk about today was super interesting is how much of a machine you were able to build at HubSpot around partner enablement and partner marketing. Right. So going back to those first handful of agencies, you're like, hey, I think I can get them to sell with us. You didn't have marketing support. HubSpot's tiny. Talk to us a little bit about how you started to think about hey, how can I market with these people, get them to generate leads, get them to sell, and make them understand the HubSpot way?
Yeah, I think so. Back then, so like 2007, very few companies very few B2B companies generated leads through their website. So it was like an anomaly. But there were still literally hundreds of thousands of small marketing agencies out there who are the primary channel partners for HubSpot. So they were largely dependent on referrals.
Right.
And so the trick wasn't so much to get them to do more marketing. It was more of just the initial trick was just how do we get them, or the initial challenge was to get them to use HubSpot as a way to deliver their services, and then use the promise of HubSpot, which was more traffic and more leads, as a way for them to sell the ROI of their services. Mostly what agencies were doing then were saying we're selling off of FOMO. It was you're not on page 1 of Google and you should be for these keyword terms. We can help you get there. Or, hey, your website really sucks and it's probably not getting you the right people and it's not converting. We should fix that. That's the way most people sold then, sold marketing services then. And so we tried to pivot that more towards getting them to sell the fact that they could grow traffic and leads month over month. And so you could use your website as a strategic investment that helps you grow your business more and faster over time.
Yeah.
The first trick was less about partner marketing or partner co-marketing. It was more about partner enablement and teaching them to sell different services and sell them in a different way. And so the first thing we did there was really around just education. There was a year or so where I literally did one-on-one coaching with agencies and brainstorming with agencies to get them to embrace these concepts. But once we had a few partners that were doing it, it was working, we built out a training program, a free webinar training program that we used to teach them.
What were the core tenets of that?
Thing that got things going. What's up?
What were the core tenets of like that? Those initial, like, if someone's out there, they're like, "Hey, I have to build a program," and what you're saying is like, "Hey, you're probably gonna have to carry the water and validate this, right? Do the coaching, do the one-on-one, do the hard work." What were the core tenets of those initial sessions that you had? Was it like finding a why? Like, is the narrative and that positioning extremely important there on like why it's important to their business versus here's how my software and features can help you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was an interesting time because everyone was also trying to figure out how to do business blogging. It was before we called it content marketing. So everybody was trying to figure out, how do I do business blogging for my own business? How do I do it as a service? How does that impact SEO? And so HubSpot figured that out pretty early on the bell curve of adoption of content marketing. And so we were teaching them that content marketing business blogging at the time could be a key service for them. It's something you do on an ongoing basis, unlike the way they used to do SEO, which was usually one project, maybe with a few tweaks over 3 or 6 months, or the way you would do a website, they might be doing email marketing back then, but like they were charging $100 or something to send out a newsletter. It wasn't enough to build a retainer off. So what we basically did is taught them how to do that. So that was the key thing, is like teach them something to sell. I think most SaaS partner programs try to teach them to sell the software. And if your channel is our service professionals like marketing agencies or accountants, don't try to teach them to sell the software. Try to figure out what services they can deliver around the software, and then the software becomes part of the sale for them.
So were those early days then really focused on helping people build out that packaging and pricing and giving them something simple to talk to the customer about? Yeah.
So any HubSpot partner listening to this will curse me as soon as I say this, because I don't recommend this anymore. I'm not sure if HubSpot does, but we came up with in the early days we have 3 packages, and we used to call them in our training fast, faster, and fastest. And so we would get these agencies to ask their prospects, like, how fast do you want to grow your traffic and leads? If you want to grow really fast, then we should blog this many times a month, and we should build this many ebooks and landing pages and do multiple email campaigns per month. But if you just want to get started and see progress, but you're not over, start with the fast package. And so we taught them to kind of have different packages with different frequency of activities in them. I don't recommend that anymore because, first of all, way too many agencies did that, and it's undifferentiated. And I just think SEO has gotten more competitive, and you can't just write a few blog posts every month and expect your traffic to grow.
But you said something interesting there. I wonder if that recommendation, absent the context of, small business agencies, right, and SEO, having productized services, right, like a good, better, best, right, is that still a recommendation that you would have?
I think the trick to selling marketing services specifically is making the package look unique and bespoke or custom for the person you're talking to or the prospect you're talking to, but at the same time have very repeatable processes for executing it. I don't believe agencies, for the most part, should productize their services and sell them for a fixed price. But I do believe they should have services that they've done over and over again and have processes for them, but then sell the value of that as part of either multiple services or could just be that one service. But I don't recommend trying to go full product on it. If you follow what I'm saying there.
I do. I think a lot of people might be wondering, how patient did you have to be, Pete? how long did it take for you to realize that you were finding success in the program? And what were some of those moments where you realized this thing might scale?
So I didn't really have much time, but I also think that the reason I didn't have much time is because I had a quota. I was in the direct sales funnel at HubSpot. The mission was very much focused on selling direct. There was belief by the management team, different people in the management team, and the board, and just a general consensus in the SaaS world that you don't sell through channel. Mike Volpe, for example, worked at a company that was predominantly channel. He knew the kind of issues that occurred in terms of partners being demanding, and we didn't want to go down that road. And then, we were selling this idea of making internet marketing easy. So why would you need an agency? And so it was different on our value prop. And we were doing well with everything we were doing on the direct sales side. So people just like, why would we screw with it? Why would we add this complexity? So the only way I could prove it out would be if I did it in my own time, really, and to a certain degree without permission. I didn't have anyone telling me don't sell a marketing agency in the really early times. But we did tell the rest of the sales team not to sell marketing agencies because they would churn at a high rate. So I had a little bit of wiggle room there where I could sell it. And I also, because we had some really early partners like Paul Reitzer, who's still, top HubSpot partner, PR 2020, and a bunch of others. But those guys and gals were referring business. And so it got to the point where I was hitting my quota for the most part from deals that the partners brought us. But that probably it was probably like a 4-month transition from where like I went from a predominantly selling direct to predominantly selling agencies. In fact, I remember the month when they took me out of the direct lead funnel. My manager at the time was Dan Tyre. I'm sure you know Kevin. And I remember ruining Christmas. I remember my sisters and my parents being so angry with me because I didn't have enough deals in my funnel, and I was at home in Pennsylvania for Christmas, and my mother was also trying to work from home, and I remember saying to her, I'm like, my phone calls are more important. She was like a VP at a bank, so her phone calls were also important. And so, because there was only one phone at the time that worked where we lived, my cell phone reception sucked. So anyways, so I remember very specifically being really pissed off at Dan Tyre for taking me out of the lead funnel because he didn't tell me either until it was too late. But after ruining Christmas and getting angry at Dan, the next month I was fine, and then several months after that I was doing like 2.5, 3x my quota from referrals. So that's at the point where everyone realized in HubSpot, like, okay, well, from a pure profitability and unit economics perspective, it made sense to go to let me actually build something more than just me taking phone calls.
So that go ahead, Kev.
I get a lot of people asking me from software companies, like, how can we build a channel program like HubSpot? And I don't know why they asked me that. I had nothing to do with that, but
I get yeah.
But they asked me this, and I guess my question to you is, how much of the success of the program that you built out was because of the HubSpot's product and that it was so favorable to the channel? And can another like type of product be as successful as HubSpot was, like pulling agencies onto a retainer model?
Yeah, I'd say about half. So I get that question, as you imagine, quite a bit too. So about half the people I talk to, I tell them not to do it.
Yeah.
And then the other half, I tell them not to do it like HubSpot did.
Right.
So it's like an awful question to be asking. So I still expect people to ask me. But I think HubSpot had a lot of unique characteristics that made it work, right? I'm a small piece of that in that I had run an agency and knew what it was like to try to manage an agency. So I knew that persona really well. But that's one small thing. I think the biggest two things is HubSpot had massive demand already. There's not as much as they have now, but still had a relatively large amount of demand. And we were attracting agencies to us. They already thought of us as thought leaders because of our content marketing. Another one was that HubSpot's product, even then, was pretty broad. There weren't other tools in the market that enabled an agency to deliver so many time-consuming services, everything from SEO to blogging to lead capture and landing page creation, to analyzing all that. Some social stuff that came along. Obviously, marketing automation came along later. So that breadth of things allowed an agency to say, we use HubSpot because it enables us to do all these things that helps you grow your traffic, leads, and sales. So I think that was a piece of it. So it was really a core piece of software the agency adopted. And so most companies don't have those two things going. In fact, it's usually the opposite. Yep. It's like they usually take some salesperson like me that was performing well enough in the direct funnel and say, go find us a bunch of partners and hit your quota. And don't ask for any help or don't distract the rest of the team. And they don't. And meanwhile, they don't have any inbound lead flow. They don't have a great position where they can get an agency or a service business to really build their business around them. So I think it's more difficult. Now there are a lot of companies out there that I talk to that like have 30% of their MRR from agencies or channel partners by accident. And those are, as long as they didn't screw up the pricing and packaging, those are perfect examples of being able to create a channel program.
So whenever you started to transition from, owning the book and the social proof was somewhat undeniable that like, hey, maybe we're not a channel company, but we have a channel, whether or not we want to admit it, we have a channel. How did you start to build on those early successes from an enablement standpoint? Like, what would be the checklist that Pete Caputa said, like, all right, so you have some validation. We'll call it like channel market validation, right? Because you have to have that to some degree. A lot of businesses skip that step and just assume it's a shortcut. But let's say,
right. Yeah, no, it's just like product market fit or market fit. You got to have marketing fit. You got to have channel market product
right.
fit.
100%. So let's assume you have some baseline of that. What would be Pete Caputa's checklist for like, hey, here's the things that you don't want to screw up or that you need to have thought through for partner enablement in those conversations to set up?
The first thing I always recommend is to build a training program for your partners. You both know as people who manage salespeople and operations that you don't hire your salespeople and then tell them to go do their job without any help, right? You most likely put them through some intense training. They're most likely paired up with one of your managers who's probably done the job before and closely managed. There's probably training every week on new things. So if you don't do at least some of that for your partners, it's just not going to work. You also need to do it differently. Like it's not the same as job as someone's going to, as a salesperson, right? So you need to think about what that agency's life or that partner's life looks like and how can you help them sell and how can you help them market and how can you teach them what they should sell and how they should sell it and how they should deliver it and how they might be able to manage they might have to manage their team or manage the execution of their work. So all of those things are important. And I think that's the first step. It's not just about training them on product, but also training them on how to build it into it.
Right. And the thing that I always say is partners aren't on your payroll. So the next question I would have around that is like, okay, let's assume we get some baseline stuff up there, some basic, decks and videos, even some recordings. How do you drive, I don't want to say adoption because that's not the right word, but active participation where people are, diving into this and becoming, trained, so to speak, whenever it's like, if an agency, you're selling time, a consultant, IT, whatever it is, you sell time for money. And I'm asking you to spend time, which is a, unstated investment. How do you think about getting people to, drive that behavior absent, being on payroll, a requirement?
Right. I think there's a few different paths. one, which is the predominant one at HubSpot that we followed in the beginning, was we showed the owner of our partner, the agency, that they could build a more profitable, more scalable business if they followed our model. And so most of them were struggling with cash flow. Most agencies still do, where they sell a bunch of stuff, and then they either finish the projects or the client engagement expires or whatever, or they cancel, and then they're back selling again. And because those engagements are relatively large, and the average agency has maybe a handful of clients per employee, like losing one of those clients is a big hit on cash flow. So anyways, we used to call it the cash flow roller coaster, and how we could help them fix that. So I think that's one method. Another method is if you already have agencies using your product, and that's the case we have here at DataBox, where they use DataBox as a way to automate their client reporting, the reports they send to clients, or the dashboards that they supply to clients. And so that's a mission critical process inside an agency. And if you can establish that an agency uses your product in their business processes, not just their execution of the client work, then there's an opportunity, right, to show them how they can go deeper and leverage that product deeper in their business or for more parts of their business. So those are the two ways I've seen work.
So when you transitioned to DataBox, Pete, I'm curious, what did you take the same HubSpot playbook with you, or what changed? How did you adapt it to fit the new company?
Yeah, it's quite different. HubSpot's you could say that DataBox did some stuff before HubSpot did, but I'd say we'll just call it tie. But HubSpot's changed things more recently. That's more similar to us, but no, I didn't take the exact same HubSpot playbook. I think the HubSpot playbook worked really early on, and it's still obviously working for HubSpot. And there's very many successful HubSpot partners that are tied to the hip with HubSpot, and that works for everybody. But I think the way that HubSpot's direct and channel sales work is better now, but it wasn't for a while. So I don't recommend that same model. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it a little differently. But the DataBox model, the first thing is that we're very focused on our freemium and self-serve sales motion. So we've invested heavily in UI, UX of our product, and heavily into our product growth team. And so we're very focused on how do we get people to buy our product without talking to them. 2/3 of our sales happen that way. And so I don't have any sales people on commission. I don't have, we have goals that we try to hit, and we break those down to individual targets for individuals, but we don't, not firing anybody for missing quota for a month or two. And generally they do hit it anyway. So we're a little more set up so that partners can basically self-serve as well. And in fact, they can add and remove clients at will. They don't have to talk to us. They basically pay out based on usage across all client accounts.
So that's single payer then, Pete, so it's true resell?
Yeah. So there's really no reselling per se. Most agents, and we do a bulk discount for agencies, so their cost actually goes down per client as they add clients. And so some agencies then, of course, bundle that into their contracts, so they are charging for the software and technically reselling it. Some just use it to deliver, a certain set of services more efficiently, and factor in the fact that they're saving time, but still billing for that effort that they go into that the DataBox eliminates. And then some are literally just reselling and to keep in the margin, but they're doing it all on their own paper. So what I've tried to do is eliminate conflict, make it as self-serve as possible, both direct and through the channel. And and make it financially beneficial for them to use and resell the product.
So
even though we have a low price point, they have a high margin.
So when you say self-service is possible, I also assume that you mean that this is self-service is possible when it comes to delivering that content, that education, that enablement. A lot of folks struggle to put this together because there's a bunch of disparate solutions from like LMSs and PRMs, and like, how do we get this in front of everyone? Do you have like a partner certification enablement, kind of set up inside of the app? How is that all kind of tied together? Do you homegrown your stuff? What did you guys?
Yeah, it needs to be updated. It's admittedly an area where I have more vision than execution, but the way it works now and has for a while is it's based off of usage of the product. So if they're using pieces of the product and they're using it at a certain level of for example, they set up a certain number of dashboards and they've used a certain number of features, they can rise to the ranks of our certification. At some point, we will make that a little harder. Initially, we designed it so that a certain percentage of partners would make it through. What happened is, as we grew, more and more partners made it through because it's relatively easy now, and so the plan is to beef that up. But it's on a list of projects that's not quite at the top.
But the educational content, is that contained within like best practices, how to set up?
What we've provided, yeah, we've delivered it all through just our help documentation.
Through the help docs.
We have specific help docs.
Okay, so just kind of more scrappy and frugal versus a formal, DataBox Institute, so to speak.
Right. No, it admittedly, so we've done more on the co-marketing side than we have on the enablement side. Once somebody gets our product set up and they use it for a handful of clients, there's not a lot to learn. And we have the majority of our agency partners use us with their existing clients. Some of our partners resell and some of them use it with prospects. And we want more of that to happen, but we haven't done the education yet around it.
Talk to me about certifications. Like you see that, I see it at Drift, you see it at Marketo, HubSpot, really anywhere in MarTech, like, hey, our consultants are X certified. We had, one partner that's like, we have 30 Drift certifications. We're the number one Drift certified partner in, Europe, which, hey, great. That's awesome. But
yeah,
I feel like you can build certification, just kind of qua certification. What would you think would be essential towards building it out? Plus it's limited. It's like in Drift's case, it's conversational marketing certified. There's strategy. There's a whole bunch of other things. There's operations, there's implementation. There's a bunch of different ways to monetize a channel relationship as the agency. How do you think about building a certification program? It's like, get something simple that's broad-based and then release, modules within that.
Yeah, no, it's not something we've done either at DataBox.
But Professor Pete, what is Professor Pete's instruction on this?
Yeah. So at HubSpot, I think they did a good job of building out certifications. It does drive behavior. I don't think like the certification by itself becomes a reason to become a partner, but I do think it helps to drive knowledge and reinforce the value of the product inside partners. Like once they make that business decision to say, all right, we're going to invest in HubSpot, or we're going to invest in DataBox, I think the training for all of the team members goes a long way. And a lot of agencies really struggle. I'm sure MSPs and other types of channel partners struggle with training their team. And so having a third-party certification that they can rely on is huge, right? Because I think it does increase partner loyalty quite a bit. I don't think it's a conscious thing, but I think what happens is, what I've seen happen is an agency will say, all right, to get promoted at our agency, you have to have these 4 certifications, or you have to have 3 out of these 6 certifications. And therefore it becomes part of there's motivation for the employee to get it. And then obviously the agency is benefiting from them being trained. So, and I think there's a reinforcement circle there, right? The more people that are trained, the more they're going to sell the product, the more they're going to retain the clients, et cetera.
So whenever you're building out the certifications, like the next thing that starts to happen is like, hey, we want to do want to do some webinars with you. We want to do some X with you. I feel like in the early stages, the answer is always really simple. You put your sales reps on the webinars with the partners, right? Like that's what we've done. Right. What does the other side of that look like in terms of, joint go-to-market with partners?
Yep. I'm not a big webinar fan myself. I've watched one webinar in the last 20 years. Although I try not to let my own biases determine the marketing methods we use, but we've tried webinars as well at Databox. We had trouble getting enough attendance to them to warrant it. Our conversion funnel works really well by offering a free product and offering some small amount of chat support in app. And so doing a webinar didn't make a lot of sense. Also, we have a custom implementation, so it didn't make a lot of sense that we would be able. We can't pick one topic and serve a lot of prospects. So we've never gone down that road. What we have gone down the road of is SEO and doing content marketing together, more on written content, recorded content, and so. A few things we've done. One is we have a program where we've had 10,000 people contribute to our blog posts over the last 3 years. And so that kind of and we always link to those people that contribute to those articles. For our top partners, we just started doing this where they've been launching an offer that's relevant to our customers. On their website. So, for example, we integrate with Drift, for example. So we have a partner that has a Drift conversational marketing audit that they built, and they can use Databox as part of that audit. And so then we promote that via content related to Drift or conversational marketing or website chat. Or what is it? Revenue operations?
Revenue acceleration.
Okay, yeah, we haven't written any revenue acceleration content yet, but when we do, we'll tap that partner for his knowledge and highlight him and his offer in the article. So that's the idea, is that we're going marketing. We just started that. We have a handful of partners doing it.
That's probably Revenue River.
That fits into our process, right? All of our marketing is organic and content marketing. That's how we get all our signups. So we have really tight processes for our editorial calendar all the way through to publication and promotion. And so we can work together with partners to figure out ways to highlight them in that new and existing content.
What's the success metric that agencies are trying to achieve with campaigns like that? Is it top of the funnel leads or new client signups, or what are they looking to get out of?
Yeah. It's different. Some agencies that we work with are really committed to their content marketing. And so they realize that getting a link, being mentioned, interacting on social around the content that we're producing together, that's valuable to them, and because it allows them to expand their reach, and they're just committed to spending that time and doing that, thousands of times over the next few years. That's some of them. And in general, they get leads because they're technology savvy. And so partnering with tech companies and being public and loud about that, it works for them. Other partners we work with, they're much more focused on actually measuring how many signups and revenue they got. We have one partner that uses Databox in order to track the revenue they're generating from several different partnerships that they have. And they're tracking, literally from clicks to leads to deals to revenue. So I think it varies. But in general, we have there are enough agencies out there who are taking their content marketing seriously, and they're very receptive when a company that gets, even us, we get 3, 4, 20 times as much traffic and leads as they do. And so if we say, hey, you want to work on this together, they're ecstatic. It's better than them just sitting down and writing something and publishing it to their own site that no one's going to ever share, and it probably doesn't have a chance to rank. So in general, we don't have any problem getting people involved in that, even if there isn't a real short-term deluge of leads from it.
It seems like there's a philosophical divide in terms of the function of partner marketing as it relates to generating awareness. And it seems to be divided based on whether or not the TAM for the company that has a partner program is SMB or it's more enterprise. And what I mean by that is,
right,
it seems like in SMB, it's much more about generating awareness because the target market isn't known. Like, you don't have a list of 200,000 accounts in Salesforce, right? Whereas in the enterprise, it's like, hey, our TAM is, maybe it's as big as 5,000 accounts. Maybe it's as big as 10,000. It seems like there, the focus is much more about account mapping and getting those relationships into Salesforce, right? And then you basically doing sales engagement because the partner has that trusted relationship. And then partner marketing in that scenario seems almost 100% focused on enablement. Whereas in the SMB world, it's like you kind of have to do, the frontline enablement and awareness. Does that seem to be like a consistent theme to you, Pete?
I haven't seen a lot of SaaS companies that sell to or through large, to enterprise and through larger channel partners. I haven't seen a lot of them like really leverage co-marketing effectively, if that's the point you're trying to make. And it is more focused on, like, you got to spend a lot more time if you're trying to go after a 200 person Marketo partner and to get them to sell your software. It's a different level of salesmanship or saleswomanship required to convince that, I won't call them an agency, but that marketing automation agency to adopt a new product and effectively resell it to their Fortune 5,000 clients. And so I think sales plays a heavier role there. You're not going to publish some content, attract the owner of that agency, and they're not going to wake up one morning and tell their team to go figure out, Drift, just because they read some content or they were asked to contribute to an article. So I think that point's true. However, I think social proof is important no matter who you are. And if you have a target list of, say, 50 or 100 resellers who are going to help you open up, 1,000 to a few thousand enterprise accounts, if you can secure those partnerships, then I would say that co-marketing can certainly play a role, because as soon as one partner sees another partner involved, they're more likely to jump on board. As soon as a partner sees how your product can help their client, that can help. Engaging that partner in thought leadership, content, and creating that together can certainly form a relationship, which opens a door. So I think there's a lot of reasons to do co-marketing besides just the immediate traffic and leads it might generate for you or your partner. There's and I was actually having this conversation with John Bonini, who's the director of marketing at Databox here, about how our next steps with our co-marketing and how we want to really build a community around it, where we're highlighting the knowledge and insights from our partners and their expertise. And he made a comment as like brand marketing or brand building, which is a term I don't really love. But I think it's right. I think one way to look at it is your partners are helping you build your brand, and you're helping them build their brand. And when you or they are selling really big contracts, that kind of content or brand public engagement together, where you're creating content together, or sharing content together, or sharing each other's content, I think goes a long way in helping to influence, or can go a long way in helping to influence a deal.
It's probably more industry focused, right? Like there's going to be some, like maybe you don't do healthcare, marketing, right? Like content around it, but you have a partner that's, crushes it in life sciences and healthcare, right? That would be the appropriate avenue to leverage, that their brand to help you build a brand in that space.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I think, I think because it gives you an opportunity to do a differentiated piece of content together. Agreed. I think that's one of the hard parts of co-marketing is if you build a partner program and you have even just hundreds, but if you have thousands of partners, then it's really hard to say, who are you going to do this with? And how, and so I think, the more niche that you can encourage your partners to be, or the more niche that they are already, the easier it becomes.
How important is the ACV of your SaaS product in getting agencies to get up in the morning and think about you and get excited about like the rev share component of the partnership?
I would say that it's becoming less important. I've told this story, but I don't know if I've ever told it on camera, but the night before we launched the partner program at HubSpot, it was Brian Halligan, myself, and a woman named Jordan Wu. And we were putting together the deck. It was literally like 11 o'clock at night. I lived like 60 miles from the office. So I wanted to get home. So I'm like, I'm out of here. I got to go like home before my wife thinks that I'm cheating on her. So anyways, I left. I show up in the morning. They had made a change to the deck, and they changed the commission from 20 to 30%. And so right before the webinar started, we were launching the program officially. I changed it back to 20%. And so that's the science we use to determine the commission. And my logic at the time, and Brian and I had several heated exchanges about this, is like, they're not doing it for the margin. The margin is inconsequential to them. Like they're trying to sell, which is for round numbers, they're trying to sell a $5,000 a month contract, and they don't give a crap about the difference between 20 or 30% on at the time, $250 a month expenditure. It's like we're talking about literally like a pack of gum here at the end of the month. And his logic was like, well, we got to give them something so they're motivated to do it. I'm like, I don't think that is important. But I will eat crow on that one, because over time, as two things happens: one, HubSpot's price went up, and two, partners added to the point where it wasn't just a few handful of clients, and some of them had sold hundreds of accounts. That became sizable checks. And I know you were at HubSpot long enough to know that John Kinzer used to talk about how much we were paying out our partners every quarter. So I think over time that became sizable. And then as SaaS exploded, I think agencies that decided to sell several products back in the day are now looking at that check every quarter or every month or year, however it goes out, and saying, oh, wow, that's my retirement income. It's like an annuity, or it's like a 401k or, a pension that you would have earned back in the day when they had pensions. And so I think it's actually less important now, because most agencies look at it and say, is this a piece of software we need? Is it a piece of software that my clients need? And then the next question is like, all right, what's the margin on it?
Okay, so it's more about delivering value to the agencies.
Yeah, I don't think so if I were running an agency right now, the first thing I would do is go look at all the partner programs and see which ones have the most generous commission plan. I did a tweet the other day on that, and it got like 150 likes and like 30 retweets. But I think most agencies are not in that frame of mind. Most of them are very much looking at it as like, here's the services I'm selling, and I'm selling a $5 or $10 or $20,000 a month engagement to these clients, and there's a certain amount of software I need in order to execute on those services. And so they're still looking at it from the perspective of as mailbox money, as opposed to building a business on it. It's not how I would look at it. I think there's an opportunity to literally build a massive annuity business if you're willing to hustle and partner with a bunch of software companies and hustle on your marketing and sales. But I don't think most agencies are there. MSPs might be a little different. I don't think you guys work much with MSPs, but MSPs are, I think, at this point they've really moved into, or they're trying to move aggressively into selling SaaS, in which case they're going to look at the numbers.
Well, you have to have a product that you can service for a long amount of time. I feel like a lot of SaaS products today, you're either going to work from the experience down or the data up, and there's not many actual platforms that you can manage for a client, right? So like a HubSpot or a Marketo or a Salesforce or what have you, but there's a lot of, call them what they are, point solutions that, they need some basic implementation and continuous maintenance and improvement, but it's not the same as like managing, content or managing marketing operations and email.
Right.
So you're not going to pay an marketing. Yes, the software company that pays that annuity is dumb. I say the software company that pays that annuity would also be dumb, though. It's like, why are you paying on year 2, year 3, year 4, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think It depends. If it's literally there's not a lot of pieces of software these days where you like sell it once and they just use it all the time, except for like CRM, right, where it's really hard to change. And so I think there's some, at a minimum, some account management required. Which if the agency or partner reseller has a recurring commission, they obviously have an incentive to maintain that relationship, at least to the point where they're ensuring there's a renewal. I don't see a lot of partners making decisions based off of the ACV or the commission. But I do see more and more agencies that are like positioning themselves as integrators and implementers, similar to the way MSPs used to be with on-premise software, where it was like, our job is to help you pick the software, implement it, and train your team. And I do believe that there's a big opportunity there for SaaS, for agencies with SaaS as well. And I've seen some partners do it. Nextany is a really good one. Nextany Marketing. They have 10 badges across their footer, right? Revenue River is another one.
An incrementally growing percentage of HubSpot's platform partners were actually coming from the agency side. So like every year since like 2017, we saw more and more agencies deciding to build tools that worked with HubSpot, probably realizing that they had better margins in a SaaS model than a service model. But it was,
I mean, building your own software, you're talking about. Yeah, exactly. Linton Web is a good example, right? You build an integration platform, and then you build an SMS tool or something like that. Yeah, I think it became like half of his business.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that we should have asked Pete? I know that like you get a ton of people reaching out to you. What's the most common question people ask you about channel?
The most common one I get is about managing channel conflict.
That's a whole other episode we're going to
do. Yeah. You guys hit on the two things that are most important that the least amount of programs do well. One is the enablement, training the partners to build services around the product and how to sell that and all that. And two is the co-marketing in order to help them get, generate leads, and also to, like I was saying earlier, build a community around your business and their business. So those are two things. But yeah, channel conflict, and my answer is simple: don't do it. Either do direct, do channel, or fully double comp. That's really the only way to manage it.
I'll have to give you the update on what we've done at Drift, because that was we had the advice from the beginning, and it still took us a year and a half to get to the other side.
Yeah, that's better than HubSpot. We're still working on it.
We'll have to do a whole episode on managing channel conflict. I think that'll be a fun one, like working with direct, working with channel, and we're absolutely going to have Pete back. So before we go, want to remind everyone, this episode is sponsored by Crossbeam. Crossbeam is a partner ecosystem platform. It acts as a data escrow service that finds overlapping customers and prospects with your partners while keeping the rest of your data private and secure. So you can sign up for free at crossbeam.com. Pete, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for making the time.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are doing this. There's not a lot of instructional material for SaaS companies trying to build a channel program. So I'm excited to see your other episodes from other.
Absolutely. And definitely shoot me over anyone that we need to talk to get their ideas into the world and on paper. And if you want to see Pete again, leave a comment in the YouTube video. We'll talk about channel, get more stuff in here. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you so much, Pete. Awesome.